¿Qué tal, comunidad? Aquí habla su abogado Rey Ibarra Maldonado y a lo mejor ustedes quieren saber qué está pasando con esta nueva decisión que anunció hoy el señor Sessions, o el racista Sessions. Ahorita vamos a explicar primero en inglés, después vamos a hacerlo en español. So, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me this evening. I know you've been seeing a lot on the news about the new decision from Attorney General Jeff Sessions. And that's what I'm going to get into tonight, talk about why did he do that, how does he have the authority to do it, and what does it mean? What does it mean for future cases, and what should people do if they're currently in the situation? So if you're watching right now, I would ask you to share this video. I'm going to take a second here. I'm going to share it on to my personal page and hopefully get some more people on here. If you could share that as well. Very popular topic today of what Attorney General Jeff Sessions did, the racist, evil Jeff Sessions. And I think when you step back and look at it in the context, this is all their implementation of the plan that we knew they were going to do when they announced who the priorities were for deportation when Trump took office last January. We knew it was a matter of time before they came out with things like this. And this decision today is just another one of their implementation tactics of getting at the idea of getting rid of brown people from the United States of America, to put it very, very bluntly. That's what they're trying to do. With this decision, they're saying, let's make it more difficult for people to apply for asylum. And how did it come to be in the first place? So in immigration court, a judge has the right to decide a case. In this case, what's called matter of AB, it was someone who was applying for asylum based off domestic violence in their country of origin. Immigration judge said no, wasn't in favor of that. That got appealed to the BIA, the Board of Immigration Appeals, and they said, yes, we are in favor of that. Turns out Jeff Sessions has the authority to pick a case, even though the judge has already decided, even though the BIA has already decided, and say, I want to do this differently, and change the outcome of a case with him sitting in Washington, D.C., never having met this person, never met their attorney, never heard any arguments, and simply say, I don't like this decision, I'm going to write a completely different one. And that's what he did today in matter of AB. So let me bring that up for you guys so we can go through a little bit of that, what the decision says, what it looks like, what it means. So here we have it. It's cited as 27 INN Decision 316. When you see these initials here, AG, you know that means it comes from the Attorney General himself or herself, the year 2018 Interim Decision 3929. And there you have it, matter of AB, that's someone, the real life, real initials, the respondent, decided by Attorney General on today's date, June 11th, 2018. And the beginning part of this is just an overview of the past case, matter of ARCG, which was a BIA amazing decision that all attorneys and advocates fell in love with when it was announced in 2014. And that essentially said that individuals who are leaving situations of domestic violence where the government can't control and support the individuals who are survivors of domestic violence, they can apply for asylum, to put it in a nutshell, right? The decision today was essentially overturning that decision. So it's very bad, it's very horrible. It's a lot of people that are going to suffer with this decision, but let's also keep it in the context. This matter of ARCG, which is overruled today, has only been around since 2014. Right? So that great decision that we have, that we love, that we've gotten a lot of people out on bond, that we're currently pending a lot of cases right now in their individual hearings, those individuals are at risk of now losing their cases, but I'm going to explain more to that. First, I'm going to go into the explanation. And yes, if you are watching, please give me a thumbs up, give me a hello, let me know you're here, let me know you're interested. Elo Chavez gives hello. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. So we have the matter of AB, which was the case where the person was applying for asylum and would have probably be living in this country now on a grant of asylum if it's not for Jeff Sessions stepping in and saying, no, we're going to change that. And I want to go through this in a little bit more detail because it's not simply just about as simple as saying individuals who no longer or who suffer from domestic violence can no longer ask asylum. It is that. That is the truth, okay? But at the same time, it's much worse than that. This decision goes way beyond that. Over here, the first 7, 8, 9 parts here are the main headings, kind of the overview of the decision that was had today. We can go here into the body of decision. Says before the Attorney General, that he starts going over. When I say he, I'm referring to Attorney General Sessions, what it consists of to get asylum, what the criteria are in order for you to be eligible. There's talk of particular social group, and then it goes into the opinion specifying that people who are suffering from private citizens' violence can no longer apply for asylum. What Attorney General Sessions is trying to do in this decision is limit asylum to those fleeing from violence from their government, not from a private actor, not from a spouse who was engaging in domestic violence, not from the Mana Salvatrucha. So they'll talk all about Mana Salvatrucha all day, how bad they are, they're horrible, they're animals, they're thugs, blah, blah, blah. But this decision says the opposite. This decision says those private actors and Mana Salvatrucha, the gang members, cannot qualify as the perpetrators of violence unless it's a very egregious situation. So here they are, the administration speaking out of both sides of their mouth. What we want to point out here is that never has it been easy to get asylum in the United States of America. It just hasn't been. It's always been a very difficult task to go ahead and win asylum. What changed with this case, the ARCG case in 2014, it recognized, here it is, married women in Guatemala who are unable to leave their relationship as a particular social group. So in order to qualify for asylum first, you have to have suffered past persecution or future persecution on account of your race, national origin, or an enumerated ground such as a particular social group. So throughout the years, attorneys have been winning cases, slowly moving the edge towards a little bit of justice in asylum law and increasing what could qualify as a particular social group. And here we have the ARCG case, which said married women in Guatemala who are unable to leave their relationship qualified as a particular social group. That's gone now, right? That's completely out the window. No longer can individuals rely on this as a particular social group in order to continue to ask for asylum. So that's the one big thing that everybody's talking about in the media about this decision today. It takes away that particular social group argument based on domestic violence survivors. But like I said, it goes even deeper than that when you look at the rest of the decision. When you get beyond the ARCG stuff, Sessions goes into detail about how someone can apply for asylum. And each and everything that he discusses is making it more difficult for us to win any asylum cases whatsoever, right? So he certified the question whether and under what circumstances being a victim of private criminal activity constitutes a particular social group for purpose of an application for asylum or withholding of removal. So what this means is, and Jean Reyes says this is a horrible decision. Horrible. All the only thing wrong with that, Jean, is that should be capitalized horrible. HORRIBLE, every single one of those letters. Absolutely disgusting decision. Thanks for watching. Arlene, good evening. Julio Cesar, saludos as well. Thanks you guys for tuning in. What we're going through here is the recent decision announced today by Attorney General Jeff Sessions and talking about some of the things that he kind of hid in here, that he snuck in here, that other people haven't been talking about too much, where it's really trying to attack the heart of asylum, not just for individuals that have this kind of case, but asylum, but also as he sits here in footnote 4, we're also talking about withholding of removal and the Convention Against Torture. So he's not just going after asylum for the particular social group, but also those two categories as well. So and he acknowledges federal courts have said that membership, particular social group, is ambiguous. But what he's doing today is limiting that, trying to take the ambiguity away, saying it's even more difficult for these individuals to go ahead to come to the country and get asylum. So I wanted to show you guys another one over here. He goes through a little bit of the history. Matter of RA was a decision prior to ARCG, which didn't come out in our favor, which came out a lot like the decision today, but it was vacated by Attorney General Janet Reno at the time. and it was not relied upon as subsequent because ARCG came out. And then it talks about other circuit courts, and 11th Circuit particularly, that have signed against ARCG, but nonetheless, many courts went on to hold that it was still applicable. Another scary part that snuck in here, people haven't been talking about yet, is footnote 8 here. In matter of LEA, the board similarly used key concessions by DHS to recognize a particular social group that might have withstood the rigorous legal analysis required by board precedent. The respondent DHS agreed that the immediate family unit response father qualifies a particular social group, and that if family membership is a essential reason for persecuting an asylum applicant, nexus may be established. And then he goes on to write, there is reason to doubt that a nuclear family can comprise a particular social group under the statute. What does that legal mumbo jumbo mean, Ray? Let me explain it to you, okay? Our clients, vast majority, Mexican, Central American, really have two arguments on particular social group for asylum purposes. One is the private actors, the domestic violence, the gang. The second one is family. He's directly attacking the first one here and said we can no longer do that. He's implying that he's going to go after the next one, which is, if by all means and purposes, an attempt to take away asylum for many people from Mexico or Central America. That's what this decision is trying to do. Now, people are freaking out and been contacting me and saying, well, what do we do? What do we do? You know, I'm a survivor of domestic violence. How else? Or I was survived a beating of the gangs and I can't go back there. What should I do? Should I just go back now? Should I go into hiding now? Should I run away? Let's remember, ladies and gentlemen, not to freak out and do anything drastic, anything that will affect your case in the long run. We are not done. We're not even close to being done. This is a horrible decision, capital HORRIBLE, what we're encouraging and what we're doing for everybody that we represent is we will continue to present that claim. We will continue to present that argument. We will continue to advocate for the right to asylum, making those same arguments that's of the particular social group, the family, the survivors, the gangs, whatever you want to be, we're still going to put that forward. Now, the immigration judges are going to rely on this case and simply say no. So then we have to appeal to the BIA, the Board of Immigration Appeals in Virginia. The Board of Immigration Appeals is going to rely on this decision and say, no, we have to follow this decision. Then we get an opportunity to go, here in Arizona at least, to the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals. And as long as our record is strongly preserved with the immigration judge, with the BIA, we can ask them to overturn this ridiculous decision from Attorney General Jeff Sessions. So simply because your case fits this, don't freak out. Don't run away. Don't hide. Don't think it's over. We will continue to fight. We will continue to present the arguments. And at the very end, we will be victorious. This administration is attempting to take away asylum law from those who are eligible, from those who have the opportunity to present their case in court. And they're trying to say, no more of that. We want you to not be able to win your asylum case. This is temporary. When you think about it historically, we're seeing a tremendous attack right now on immigrants and immigrants' rights, but it's up to us, people of conscience, attorneys, advocates, activists, and immigrants who are going through this process to continue to stand up, to continue to fight back, and to not take it. We're going to continue to move forward to make sure that this bad decision gets overturned and overruled. Elvia Diaz has a question. Why isn't immigration under the judicial court system? Very good question, Elvia Diaz. What is happening in the immigration world is it is essentially controlled by the Attorney General of the United States. Immigration court judges are administrative law judges. They're not what we call Title III judges, like in the United States Federal District Court, that are appointed for life, that have authority to make decisions that can't be touched by the administration. Immigration law, immigration court, for lack of better words, is a joke, right? It's the Attorney General's job and duty to oversee the deportation proceedings. They set up these almost fake courts, if you will, that preside over the cases, but they have the authority at any time to come in and say, I'm certifying that case to myself, and I'm going to completely change that decision. So there is an effort, there is a movement, you can call it, or at least a great idea, to change that, to move it out, all the power from the Attorney General, at least to make it, as Judy Flanagan was talking about in a presentation we did this evening at Puente, to make them at least Title I judges, to give them a little bit more autonomy away from the Attorney General. That is, to me, a much more just system, a system that comports more with due process. You can't have the executive having complete and total control and be the decision makers and just cutting off due process and judicial review whenever they don't politically agree with it. Because that's what it is. It's about politics. Politically, Jeff Sessions doesn't agree with brown people coming in the country and asking for asylum. That's it. I mean, he's essentially on record saying that. This is his legal attempt to implement that program. Well, that's what we're seeing right here. So I do agree we need an complete overhaul of the immigration system, of the deportation process, putting more power and authority into the hands of the judges and stripping it completely away from the Attorney General, whose job is supposed to be to bring the cases and advocate for their side to deport people, but they shouldn't be able to advocate for deportation and be the final decision maker. That is 100% my opinion. All right. Chris Fleischman gives me a thumbs up. Thanks, Chris. Looking forward to seeing some exciting, awesome posters you're going to do on this issue and all the other issues that we're fighting. Mary Rose, thanks for continuing to stand with the people. Always, we got to keep fighting, and we must stop the inhumanity. Amen to that. How do we fight? That's a great question. Today at the office, we had a little meeting in the morning, and quite honestly, people are, speaking for myself, saddened, depressed, disheartened by the images that you see every time you scroll on Facebook, something else negative happening, and what can we do positively to make that happen? And we talk for 30 minutes, and we're trying to come up with something. At the end, we come up with, well, let's reach out to the shelters there in Mexico and see if there's any way we can help. I literally walk back into my office, I look at my Facebook messages, and 30 minutes before, there was a message for someone that worked at a shelter in Mexico asking for our help in putting together information on asylum. So, I mean, it's, to us, that's one way we're going to get involved. We're continuing to talk with them and trying to figure out, hey, what do you need? How can we be helpful to those individuals who are about to cross for the first time? How can we get them information? How can we tell them what's going on? How can we stop the family separations? And at the same time, how can we tell their stories to the rest of the world? Because people need to know why they're coming across and why they want to be here in the first place. So continue to be on the lookout if you could. Sorry, I'm saying I don't have the answer right now, but by the end of the week, we're going to have stuff up posted that people can do, people can get involved, because this is a human rights tragedy that's happening right now in our doorstep, in our front door. People are coming here looking for help. They're being separated from their families. They're being criminalized. Kids are being put in cages. Decisions like this are taking away due process for immigrants, and we're not going to stand by and simply watch it happen. We can't get overwhelmed. We can't get frustrated. We have to keep moving forward. And by the end of the week, we'll have more information, and of course, looking to work with other attorneys and other groups to make sure that we can have the entire community involved in fighting back against this absolutely racist and evil plan that this administration is coming up with. Juan Manuel, buenas noches, Leak, and thanks for the information. Of course, my pleasure to share it. Happy to be able to talk to the community about this very important issue that people are freaking out about, and rightfully so. Rightfully so, people are upset. People are wondering about what this decision means, how Attorney General Sessions is coming after us, and now we're seeing this specifically trying to limit asylum. It's all part, and if you have a question about the decision, or if it affects a certain type of case or what it means, please just drop it below. I'll do my best to try to get back to you on that. If you're watching later, I'll try to respond to that. But this is taken in context. We're seeing here Attorney General Sessions trying to do away with asylum law as a way for people to get into the country and then get out on bond is essentially what they're trying to do. So yes, they're going after people that currently have their cases pending, but I think he's trying to make a bigger attack on the people that are coming into the country. Because when you come into the country and you say, I have a fear of going back to my country of origin, you're given an interview with an asylum officer. If you pass that interview, you're then allowed to see an immigration judge and put on the path to someday be getting a bond and an asylum hearing. He's trying to cut that off. Right at the very beginning, when people are coming into the country, he's trying to make the standard so high for getting asylum, so way up here, that individuals can't even get past that first interview. So that's what he's doing, the change in here. It's a particular social group. That's the big one, the most popular one, making it way more difficult to fit into a category where you could apply for asylum. He's also raising the standards on many other things. He's raising the standard on having to prove that you cannot relocate. Even if you prove everything else in your case, he's trying to say, especially if it's a private actor, relocation has to be shown by the respondent that they can't go live somewhere else in the country of origin. Use Mexico. Someone's abused in Michoacan, they're abusers in Michoacan. Say they win all the other impossible things, which he's making impossible now. The very last step is, Sessions is essentially saying, you have to prove why you can't live in Cancun. You have to prove why you can't live in Nogales. You have to prove why you can't live in Mexico City. Putting that burden onto the respondent, where before it had to be a reasonable explanation of why the person couldn't move. And it's now the burden's being put on the respondent to make the case of why they can't relocate anywhere else in the country. Remember, we're talking about a significant amount of people who are unrepresented. They do not have an immigration attorney. They don't have the privilege of having someone go in there who knows this very complicated area of law to explain it to the judge how your client's story fits into this very complicated legal analysis. That's what attorneys should do. We're storytellers. We take the story of our client, we put it into the legal framework for the judge and the government attorney, and try to get them to approve the case. The vast majority of these cases now, you have these people who lack a formal education in the country of origin, don't speak the language here in this country, don't know the terminology, and they're supposed to somehow fit their story into this very complicated legal framework, a particular social group, inability to relocate, inability to have the government control the person. It's just ridiculous. And it's absolutely impossible for someone pro se on their own to win a case with decisions like this that make it more difficult and more difficult for someone to apply for asylum. Luis Fernandez says, thank you, good info. I appreciate that, Luis. Great, keep up the great work up there. Mary Rose, are some of the children in Florence? I haven't seen of any of the children being held in Florence. If anybody else is watching knows in Arizona where the children are being held, please let us know. I know the moms and the dads are being held and going through Operation Streamline in Tucson, which I know you're very familiar with, Mary Rose, and then often being sent, to Eloy or to Florence. We don't have any people right now that we're representing. We're looking for people that we can help out that are in this situation. From what I heard so far, they've mainly been going through the Operation Streamline like federal process, and then hopefully we'll eventually get a hold of some of them so we can figure out exactly in Arizona where they're being held at, so we can also have protests out there as well. Jaime Valdez, ¿cómo afectar a mi caso? Gracias, Ray, si podía mandar su respuesta en privado. Claro que sí. Jaime, so ahí lo voy a hablar con usted para hablar de su caso. Todos los casos de asilo, ustedes deben hablar con sus abogados para ver cómo esta decisión va a afectar su caso personalmente. Otra vez, como dije al principio, si tienes un caso de asilo, eso lo puede cambiar la decisión del juez, decisión del BIA, pero no significa que usted no debe seguir con los mismos argumentos en frente del juez. Tiene que perseverar el argumento para que un día pueda ganar el circuito y intentar ganar ahí y cambiar esa decisión. Okay? Very, very important. Spread the word. Keep fighting your case. Keep presenting your argument. It's called making the record. Keep making the record so that we can get this decision overturned. If it doesn't get overturned soon in the Ninth Circuit, that we can get a new attorney general in someday that gets rid of this decision and puts ARCG and other good decisions back in there. That's what we're looking to do. Of course, mi placer. So those are some of the major changes that, again, in this 31-page decision that Attorney General Jeff Sessions put together, making it more difficult for individuals to come into the country and get past that first stage of their credible fear interview. Again, the idea is to cut that off, to not let people see an immigration judge and deport them faster. So he's giving the tools to the immigration judges, to the asylum officers, to the TAs to try to cut off somebody's case even faster. He even requires in here, which was a decision earlier, but he reinforces it here, that an individual must specify their particular social group in front of the immigration judge. An uneducated, uninformed person must tell them what the particular social group is to the judge in order to preserve that issue for appeal. So if I come and get that case on appeal, even pro bono or something, I can't add that argument that's so obvious because that individual didn't present it on their own to the immigration judge. Another attack for Attorney General Jeff Sessions to try to get rid of our community. And that's what he says here at the end. Having overruled ARCG, I vacate the board's December 2016 decision as well in this woman's case from El Salvador. The applicant has the burden of showing asylum, which includes identifying a cognizable social group, establishing group membership, persecution based on the membership, and the government was unwilling or unable to protect the respondent. So these are all things that someone must prove on their own to an immigration judge in order to be granted asylum, or to an asylum officer now to get their credible fear interview. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Again, if you have any other questions, please throw them down now. This is a decision that will have lasting ramifications for many, many cases. Like I said, the vast majority of our cases that are asylum from Mexico and Central America are going to severely, severely be affected by this decision. It's the erosion of a huge advancement in immigration law that's been taking place for the past 20 years, slowly but surely conforming with international human rights law, and trying to get an avenue for people to stay in this country after they suffered something so horrific and violent in their country of origin. So it's a step backwards indeed, but it's not the end of the story. It's not the end of the game. Again, we need to continue to present these cases, continue to push forward, continue to speak out, continue to organize, continue to be present at congressional hearings in front of our congressional representatives, in front of people in positions of power to denounce what's happening here today. It's our job to educate other individuals about the facts that we know. Some of those pictures I saw earlier today about the children being behind bars, absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely horrific that you're seeing comparisons to Nazi Germany and the things that are happening in Arizona today. Today, things that are happening, and we're getting that analogy to take place. That people are showing these images that unfortunately are strikingly similar. So it's our duty, it's our responsibility not to ask the question, would we have done if we lived in Nazi Germany? Would we have been a part of the student group that fought against Hitler? What would we have done the civil rights movement? Would we have been on the buses? Would we have been doing the boycott of the bus? Would we be on the sit-ins, doing the things of fighting for people's civil rights? What would we do if we lived in the time when women couldn't vote? Would we be marching in the streets? What would we do if we lived in the time of slavery? Would we be there with the abolitionists? What are you doing today in the era of Trump as he attacks immigrants? What are you going to do tomorrow? What are you going to do the next day? How are you going to step up and be part of the solution and not be a bystander that's part of the problem? So I look forward to hearing you got any ideas, anything you want to do, drop it down there in the comments. Get a hold of us. We're looking for actions to take. We're looking for ways to get people involved. And we will continue to do that until this absolutely ridiculous, horrific attack on our community is over and done for. Sorry for the rant, folks. Thanks so much for watching. And again, look forward to being in contact with you. This is not the end of it. Let's keep fighting. Let's keep moving forward. Thank you.